There's a rumor in One Piece that people in snowy countries don't sleep, because if they do, they will die. At face value, this sentence seems somewhat ambiguous, unless you compare it to the character at hand, Marshall D. Teach Blackbeard. It's a metaphor for his upbringing. Blackbeard's childhood personified loneliness and suffering. Born in a country of white snow, Blackbeard never slept because sleep is the cousin of death. Blackbeard had a chip hanging over his shoulder, always having to keep his guard up, wondering if the next day would be his last. It was a continuous, persistent cycle of pain. Deprived of love, emotion, and familial ties, Blackbeard grew bitter and resentful, and promised himself that one day he would seek revenge on the contributors to his circumstances. This is the mind of a young Blackbeard, and the beginning of his journey to calamity. Now, when it comes to my list of villains, I got Blackbeard at the very top. He's this Eisen-level Machiavellian genius who will do anything to achieve his goals. Something very interesting about Blackbeard is that he's always had a fascination with history. I'm assuming he discovered the meaning of the will of D, the truth of devil fruits, and everything in between. With his shared connection to Zebek and simultaneously inheriting his will, Blackbeard at the age of 16 started masterminding his goal for the One Piece, with the first stepping stone towards his dream joining a Yonko's crew. And of course, Whitebeard was his best option, a contemporary of Rocks, someone whose heart was much kinder than those of his compatriots, and that was something Blackbeard could exploit. On Whitebeard's crew, Blackbeard made it his mission to keep a relatively low profile, and it worked perfectly. But there was one considerable drawback that never left him, and that was the fact that he could never fall asleep at night. And the first person to draw attention to this issue was Buggy. He brought this to the attention of a young Shanks, but Shanks disregarded Buggy's warning. In fact, he thought it was awesome, but through his many encounters with Blackbeard, Shanks could no longer disregard these abnormalities. There was something much more dark and sinister laying dormant within Blackbeard's mentality. And this notion was affirmed when Blackbeard scarred Shanks' eye. Shanks confirmed that he did not underestimate Blackbeard, and he still got the better of him. This moment traumatized Shanks, literally changing his perspective on Blackbeard, forcing him to recognize the monster within his mind. This is the mentality of Blackbeard, a beast lurking in the shadows. Through Blackbeard's ambiguous and checkered upbringing, there's one thing we can definitively conclude. Blackbeard has a perverse morality. In One Piece, morality is entirely on the individual level. Luffy was fortunate enough to have Shanks set a precedent of what is inherently righteous and just. From this, he derived his own ethical beliefs that he will stand by. Thus, he formulated his individualistic foundation of what is right and what is wrong. But Blackbeard is a conniving manipulator whose foundation is built on rotten floorboards. Good, evil, and anything in between is irrelevant because he only cares about his motivation. Blackbeard designs himself a path to follow towards becoming Pirate King, and any moral quandary is pushed to the wayside. That's why this dichotomy between Luffy and Blackbeard is extremely fascinating, because on the surface they are two sides of the same coin. The biggest aggressors in One Piece who have changed the landscape like no other. Blackbeard is a dangerous strategic opportunist who will cheat his way to get what he wants by any means necessary. He's the moon to Luffy's sun. They both trust in their dreams and fate to guide their adventure. But the aspects towards reaching their goals are vastly different. Even the way they acquired their devil fruits. Luffy acquired the Nika fruit completely by accident from someone he saw as a father figure. In contrast, Blackbeard spent his time on Whitebeard's ship making false connections, manipulating everyone, until the day came when the power he sought out revealed itself. In one swift motion, Blackbeard betrayed his father figure, killed his crewmate, and started making his play for the One Piece. Blackbeard's first true objective was to become a Yonko who can compete with the likes of Kaido, Shanks, and Big Mom. To do that, he needed a crew of individuals who shared his same thirst for blood. After that was accomplished, he started making his moves, first stopping at Drum King Island where he searched for the Hito no Mi, but ultimately failed. He took out his frustration on the country, which I can only speculate is due to the dark memories that surface while enduring the Drum King Island snowy climate. Blackbeard maneuvers himself with a cold calculation until he ends up in a bar on Jaya and has a fated encounter with Luffy. Blackbeard switches gears, viewing Luffy as his ticket to warlord status, and he starts making steps to capture him. However, during this process, he notices something. Luffy, just like him, is championed by fate. Same dream, same lineage, but different methodologies towards actualizing their motivations. Luffy counters the world government and defeats the warlords, while Blackbeard joins the world government and becomes a warlord. To become a warlord, Blackbeard needed an essential bargaining chip, and because it's Blackbeard, fate and destiny tend to play into the palm of his hands, and just when you least expect it, Ace appears ready to take him on. With this outcome, Blackbeard instinctively understood that he could kill two birds with one stone. By capturing Ace, he could become a warlord and set up a future war that would pin the Whitebeard pirates against the Marines. And while all the chaos is assuming, he can break into Impel Down and ally himself with the strongest and most notorious criminals in the world. To say things worked out for Blackbeard would be an understatement. He eliminated his greatest foe, got the strongest Paramecia Devil Fruit in the verse, and in the following year, he cemented himself as a Yonko. Since the New World began, we have not seen that much of Blackbeard, and that's because he's staying in the shadows and bolstering the strength of his crew with Devil Fruits, waiting for the next moment to strike. It's all in accordance with his calculated mindset, waiting for the right place and the right time. There isn't a shadow of a doubt in my mind that the person Shanks was referring to when talking to the Gorosei was Blackbeard. However, because the spotlight is on Luffy, they disregarded his request. From what we know, Blackbeard has the lowest bounty out of all the Yonko. In terms of perceived threat level, he is at the lowest end of the spectrum. And let's be honest, that's the complete opposite of the reality at hand. And what's even more bombastic is that he still has not revealed his greatest surprise. Now, this is just conspiracy theory drone at work, but I believe Teach ate his first Devil Fruit prior to joining the Whitebeard Pirates. The mythological zone, Taketako no Mi Model Kraken. Even for invertebrates, octopi have peculiar bodies. Most importantly, they have 3 hearts. This could explain why he's able to use multiple Devil Fruits. Ergo, 1 Devil Fruit per category, 3 Devil Fruits for 3 hearts. This also validates the notion that Marco stated at Marineford that Blackbeard has an abnormal biology. And since Jaya, it's been speculated that Blackbeard has multiple souls. Octopi have 3 hearts and 8 tentacles, and Blackbeard's Jolly Roger has 3 skulls and 8 bones. For Blackbeard's character, this fits perfectly. Blackbeard embodies darkness. He sends ripples throughout the world. But most importantly, Blackbeard is a monster.